This video uses Climate Consultant to examine the wind on a site. This is what the wind pattern is like for Wellington. At the airport with no buildings and no trees. So we know how often the wind blows. We can actually say, well, I'm actually not interested because it's a park in looking at all of the hours of the day. I'm actually only interested from, say, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Which way does how often is the wind blowing? And how strong are the winds? The spikes in the middle are these things. They're about how strong the wind is blowing. These are about how many hours a year, what proportion of the year the wind is blowing. These blue things really only become interesting when we say, actually, I want to look at from January to, say, March. So now I'm looking at the summer. The wind is shifted slightly. The important strong winds have shifted in terms of directions compared to the overall year. And this is when wind's blowing from this direction, we're talking about high humidity. We're talking about mid-range humidity when the wind is blowing from these directions. And you can see that the easterlies, when they do blow, are colder than the northerlies, and the southerlies, because the length of this blue bit is the temperature, is the southerlies are much cooler than the northerlies. They're much less frequent, thank goodness, in summer. It's so you can pull it apart any way you want to. We're not suggesting that you necessarily have to do all of that. It's just, if you have a question, you can start to interrogate the data and then say, what might the trees or the buildings on the site do to that? So which park?
Waitangi Park.
Waitangi, right, sorry. Yeah.
And I'm going to do the swale area because I think that's kind of the most designed and the most interesting.
Right. So you're talking about, hang on, why am I not drawing? You're talking about which area though?
By Harborside, yeah, that kind of area. Yeah.
Not that area. Right, okay. Yeah. I quite like that area.
That area.
And it's just because of my fascination with wind. Nothing beyond that. And I really don't like the fact that Google managed to go along when the fence was there to stop you going into this area. But if you know, you're talking about that area, I presume.
Yeah.
This area here, all of these structures were created in order that these wind hardy trees could actually grow. They're a demonstration. So if you look at this building sitting with literally nothing between it and Petone or Newlands across the harbour, creates a lot of, well, was predicted when they converted it to create a lot of downdraft that blew out and around the corner of the building. So this was identified as likely to be the windiest part of the park. And with salt and sea spray, plants don't grow very well. With wind in Wellington, plants don't grow very well, but you add salt and sea spray and you really rip them to shreds. So these structures are designed to smooth out the wind and to make it possible for the plants to grow. It's quite fascinating. Sorry, I know it's my...
No, this is interesting. This is great. I'm going to do this area now. It would give me more to talk about.
Well, I mean, the other thing that you can learn about the park is you want to know, these are some of the wind hardiest trees we have in New Zealand. And you can kind of see how they struggle to grow. Because the wind is strongest in Wellington in spring from the north, which is from the left of this picture. And that means when they're trying to grow new leaves, new growth, even evergreen trees have light colored, soft spring growth, it gets ripped off on the windward side. So it always encourages growth in the direction away from the major wind. So sorry, I just think it's a fascinating.
No, it's been great.
From a landscape point of view in particular. It could make this.
I would agree with that statement.
Why can't I? No, I won't. For reasons that I don't understand, when I click. That's what. Sorry. That's much better, much easier to understand. But you can see from above what they were trying to do here much more easily than when we were walking around the outside. And the swale area, well, again, my personal view, and it's much more interesting to think about, is less accessible than I'd like. It's almost it's a utilitarian space beside the park rather than a space for use.
Yeah, and I did notice that when I was there. I thought you'd better walk through it more. But
Yeah.
there's only really the route to the side and then the weekend concrete jetty.
Yep. Yeah, there's that, and one or two little bits and pieces, but it was like, I wanted to. Well, that's experience of taking my grandchildren down there. It was sort of less exciting when they kind of headed off down that path than I thought, because I thought we can play hide and seek or something interesting. Nope. Not at all. So anyway, I probably talked too long about wind, but in terms of climate consultant, as I say, that